This is Leon and the Spitting Image, Chapter 17, entitled Important News. Leon stumbled down the steps with the masterpiece pressed against his chest. The powers of his doll so flustered him that he had fled the classroom nearly as fast as Miss Hagmaier. In the race to escape, he had left his backpack behind. Out on the street, he squeezed the doll tightly and stared fiercely at its features. How, he asked himself, could a spit-stained clump of cloth and pantyhose control the actions of his teacher? An ambulance siren prompted Leon to loosen his grip. As the ambulance zoomed by, he imagined the lifeless body of his bony, bald, fourth-grade teacher strapped to a gurney inside. Could squeezing the doll squeeze the life out of the real Miss Hagmaier? Suppose his careless clench had crushed her rib cage. Suppose his breathtaking power was exactly that, breathtaking. Could he get sent to jail? And if so, what would he get sent to jail for? Telepathic suffocation? Questions kept popping into Leon's head. What had activated the power? How long would it last? Had anyone seen what he'd been doing at the back of the room while the hag was performing in the front? He didn't think so. And even if someone had turned around, it wouldn't have mattered. He'd kept the doll hidden under his desk. A familiar voice pierced his panicked thinking. Hey. Leon swung around. He was relieved to see Lily Matisse. Hey, he said, you tore out of class so fast you forgot this. Lily Matisse handed him his backpack. Thanks, said Leon. He quickly shoved the masterpiece inside. Can you believe what happened? Leon gave a distracted nod. What's got into you? Said Lily Matisse. You're acting weirder than the hag. And that's saying something. Before Leon could answer, P.W. bounded down the steps. What do you mean, what's got into him? The hag, obviously. She's wigged him out. Very funny, said Lily Matisse. And by the way, P.W., you owe me an apology. I told you the hair of hers was totally 100% fake. Technically speaking, the hag does have some hair, said P.W. I saw a few strands. That's not the point, said Lily Matisse. Fine, P.W. grumbled, but I'll tell you one thing. He bent down and grabbed a sneaker strap. From now on, this will always remind me of her. He gave the strap a yank. Scritch! Stop it, P.W., Lily Matisse cried. And P.W. turned to Leon for a reaction, but Leon had more pressing matters to consider. He had to figure out if his backpack now contained a time bomb or a treasure. P.W. suspended the sneaker sonata and stood up. Earth to Leon, come in, Leon. He was having a hard time threading words together. Spit it out, said P.W. Leon grimaced. That was the last expression he wanted to hear. Don't push him, said Lily Matisse protectively. It was me, Leon blurted out. What was you? Said P.W. What happened? Inside, Leon tugged on his hair. I did that to the hag. Me. I wigged her out. Lily Matisse and P.W. traded looks. Leon was all set to spill the beans when a car horn intruded. Napoleon waved from the street. Hey, can you guys come over to the hotel? Leon asked urgently. I've got some important news. The Trimore, with its unusual guests and on-site bakery, was an attractive after-school destination under normal circumstances, and the added promise of important news only made his proposal more appealing. Definitely, said P.W. Sure, said Lily Matisse. The hotel lobby was even more of a zoo than usual when Leon and his two friends pushed through the revolving door. A tropical bird congress was leaving at the very moment the editorial board of Weasel Weekly was checking in. Squawks, honks, and coos from the birds competed with the screeches, trills, and chirps from the weasels. Hey there, kids, Emma Zeisel yelled as she raced by with a broom raised over her head. Sorry, can't stop. Red-billed toucan on the loose. The fugitive guest dive-bombed a weasel before flapping back toward the reception desk. Leon coaxed Lily Matisse and PW into the coffee shop with the promise of his news and some half-and-reffer dough balls. He sat down on one side of the booth and gave his friends the other. Okay, so what's so important? PW said impatiently. Leon looked around the coffee shop to make sure no one could hear. Before I start, I want the pledge. Which one? Said Lily Matisse between bites of a dough ball. The cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye pledge. But you hate that one, PW reminded him, fiddling with a glistening black toucan feather he had found in the lobby. Yeah, well, I've changed my mind. After Lily Matisse and PW swore the needle oath, Leon said, and just so you know, if either of you does blab, the needle that does the sticking will be as long as the hag's and rusty. Sheesh, what's up with you? Said Lily Matisse. We get the idea. Leon took a breath. All right, Lily Matisse, remember when your mom fought with the hag at the cloisters? Hard not to, said Lily Matisse. The memory clearly embarrassed her. Remember how she said something about a piece of cloth springing to life when stitched with passion? Mom always saying junk like that, said Lily Matisse. Well, it's not junk. What she said is true. For like the 10 millionth time, what are you talking about? Said PW. Leon took a moment to collect his thoughts. Right, here goes. When the hag pulled the wig off during dismissal, you know why she did it? She did it because I pulled off my wig. Well, not my wig, obviously. I mean, my masterpieces. I caused all the weird stuff that the hag did in the classroom. All of it. The strumming and the arm raising and the wig removing and the... Slow down, PW interjected. You're saying you made the hag rub her stomach? Yup, said Leon. Maybe she has a rash, Lily Matisse conjectured. Lots of teachers scratch themselves, said PW. This is different, Leon sputtered. I did tests. The hag raised her hands because I raised the doll's hands. And what about the hair? How do you explain that? How many teachers rip the hair off their heads? You're telling us your doll has magic powers? PW asked. You got it, said Leon. Lily Matisse and PW both burst out laughing. I'm serious. PW gave Lily Matisse a sidelong glance and twirled the toucan feather in circles near his ear. I think our friend's gone totally bonkers. All those stitch counts must have pushed him over the edge, said Lily Matisse. The hag's gotten to him. Wrong, cried Leon. It's the exact opposite. I've gotten to her. She told me to make her a masterpiece. Well, that's what I did. Only guess what? I'm the master of that masterpiece. I control her. The doll or the hag? PW asked. Both! Exclaimed Leon. PW rolled his eyes. Give me a break. You guys don't believe me? N-O, said PW. That goes D-I-T-T-O for me, said Lily Matisse. Okay, Mr. and Miss Skeptical, I'll show you. Tomorrow, recess. Meet me at the tree. The following day at recess, Leon, Lily Matisse, and PW gathered behind the giant maple. Leon chose the spot because it provided a protected view of the whole playground, the teacher's bench, the jungle gym and jump rope area, the ball wall, and the foursquare grids. A creature of habit, Miss Hagmeyer was sitting where she usually sat, on the teacher's bench, doing what she often did, embroidery. Leon reached for his purple pouch. Why did you bring the travel book? Lily Matisse asked. Leon loosened the drawstring and removed his masterpiece. What happened to the pastry box? Said Lily Matisse. Don't you remember? Lumpkin destroyed it with a rhino. Besides, I can't exactly walk around school with a pastry box. And anyway, the masterpiece fits better in the pouch, and the pouch fits in my backpack. Can we skip the packaging instructions and get on with it? PW said. Right, said Leon. He squinched and clucked, took aim, and began working the legs of the masterpiece. Nothing happened. Miss Hagmaier didn't budge. "Oh, I swear it worked yesterday," Leon sputtered. "Well, it's not working today," said PW. Leon flexed the legs of the doll with increasing desperation. Suddenly, Miss Hagmaier put down her needlework, rose up, and walked toward the maple tree. For a brief, glorious moment, Leon thought he had caused her to move, but it soon became clear that Miss Hagmaier was responding to some jump ropers, causing a disturbance. Leon switched his grip and worked the arms of the doll, rotating them like helicopter blades. Lily Matisse abruptly cupped her hand over her mouth, and PW blurted out, "Holy mackerel, that thing you're doing, Leon, keep doing it!" Leon continued to spin the arms of the doll. "It's like she's trying to throw a couple of lassos," said Lily Matisse. "Only without the lassos," gasped PW. "I told you the doll controlled her," Leon said. "She must have been out of range when she was on the bench," said PW. "This is incredible." "Shush, she might hear us," warned Lily Matisse. Leon shook his head. "Don't worry. Her radar doesn't work when I'm doing..." He struggled for the right word. "Doll work?" suggested PW. "Right," said Leon. "Doll work puts the hag into a kind of trance." He stopped the arm spinning. "Keep going," said PW. "Cool your jets, my hands are cramping." Leon shook out his fingers and then bent the doll's legs. This time, his efforts were rewarded. He was able to march Miss Hagmaier across the blacktop and over to the deserted jungle gym. "She's like a zombie," PW cried enthusiastically. "Maybe Lily Matisse is right," said Leon. Lower the volume. I don't want anyone to hear us or see what I'm doing. And it's hard to concentrate with you shouting." Once Leon had walked Miss Hagmaier to the jungle gym, he again switched his grip. Handling the doll's arms like joysticks, he made Miss Hagmaier raise her arms straight up in the air. "Reach for the sky, partner," said PW. Lily Matisse laughed. "It does look like she's been caught up in a stick-up." Leon ignored the banter. He was too busy bending legs and curling fingers. With the doll and teacher properly positioned, he performed a bouncy motion that made Miss Hagmaier grab for a jungle gym crossbar a few feet above her head. And then he flexed the doll's arms. "Oh my gosh," cried Lily Matisse. "Unbelievable," PW exclaimed. And all of a sudden, skinny old Miss Hagmaier was doing pull-ups like an army cadet. Up, down, up, down, up, down. "Can you make her do those one-handed?" asked Lily Matisse. "I'll give it a shot," said Leon. He released one of the hands while continuing to pump the other. The result? Miss Hagmaier performed a series of one-handed pull-ups worthy of an Olympic gymnast. "How about a loop-the-loop?" PW proposed. "There's no such thing as a loop-the-loop," said Lily Matisse. An avid gymnast, she knew the proper names for all sorts of moves. "But you could try and get her to do a straddled Chakev. No, wait. I've got a better one. A double twisting Yurchenko. And while you're at it, have her finish off with a full twisting double layout dismount." Now that would be something. "A double twist?" said Leon skeptically. "I don't think so." "What about a single?" PW proposed in the spirit of compromise. "That's still way beyond me," said Leon. "I'd need to practice to do stuff like that." "Hey, can I give it a try?" PW asked. Leon wavered. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Come on," begged PW. "I'm a level 12 Grandmaster in Turbo Titan 6. If I navigated Zoltan through the Cave of Calamity, I'm pretty sure I can handle a few twists." Reluctantly, Leon relinquished the doll. But the instant he relaxed his hold, Miss Hagmaier let go of the crossbar. Her lace-up boots landed against the black top with a thud, and her arms flapped limply to her sides. PW yanked the doll this way and that, but his efforts had no effect whatsoever. Only Leon could move Miss Hagmaier. What do you think's doing it?" Lily Matisse asked. "I bet you it's the spit," said PW. "Remember the fun facts in Chapter 7? Spit can contain magic powers, just like Monk Jonas said." It's probably more complicated than that, said Leon. There's also the hag's pantyhose to consider. Well, whatever's doing it, we'd better go easy on the doll work, said Lily Matisse. I mean, look at her. They stared at Miss Hagmeyer as she staggered to the teacher's bench. Go easy with the doll work, said PW. Are you kidding me? Do you realize the power Leon's got? The bell rang. Recess was over. Miss Hagmeyer struggled to pull herself up off the bench. Maybe Lily Matisse has a point, said Leon as Miss Hagmeyer teetered toward the door. We've got to take things slowly. We'll use the doll only when no one's looking. This could get me in serious hot water. You're not seeing the possibilities, said PW. We can talk about possibilities at lunch, Leon said, slipping the doll into the pouch. Meanwhile, no one says anything to anyone. Got it? Got it, said PW. Got it, said Lily Matisse. Good, said Leon. Now let's do a spit pledge and head in. Lily Matisse made a face. But we already crossed our hearts yesterday in the coffee shop, remember? I'm not taking any chances, said Leon. Spit pledge, now. PW was perfectly happy to expel a sidewalk oyster as a tribute to Monk Jonas and the miracle of the doll. Lily Matisse proved harder to convince, but after some prodding, she made a spitting sound, an indifferent patooey, which Leon, feeling charitable, accepted as legit.